I'm going to call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals for Thursday, March 26, 2026. Would you please take a roll call, please?
Ballard.
Here.
Burrell.
Here.
Throckmorton.
Here. We had minutes attached to the packet. If I have any corrections or changes, we can do so now. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 26, 2026.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Ballard.
Yes.
Burrell.
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes. Okay, so before we get started, Eric, do you want to just brief us quickly on the changeover in format, how it's presented to us so that
Yeah, a couple announcements from staff. One of the petitions will be continued tonight. That is the petition for 508 North Lincoln, petition number ZR 2026-02-0004. That has been requested to be continued to the April agenda. So because that did happen after the packet went out, the board does need to vote on that.
Okay. So do I have a motion to continue ZR 2026-02-0004 to
Motion
the April
to-
23rd meeting? Sorry.
Motion to continue ZR 2026-02-0004 to the April meeting.
Second.
Call the question?
Throckmorton.
Yes.
Ballard.
Yes.
Burrell.
Yes.
Okay.
And then secondly, staff just want to kind of give a little bit of information about what you may have noticed is a change in how the packet what was the packet has been prepared. So in order to come into compliance with accessibility standards and requirements, what you'll find is an agenda, and then within that agenda are links to 3 different pieces of information. One is a staff report. Second are exhibits that have been prepared by staff. And then a third folder is for third-party exhibits. So exhibits that are received from third party, that is outside the city, are not accessible. And so that is why those are in a separate folder to designate that those do not meet accessibility requirements. However, the staff report and exhibits or any other piece of information that come from staff do have to be made accessible. So those will be in specific folders themselves. So this, as of right now, will be the format of agendas and packets being distributed for the foreseeable future.
Any other reports?
Yep, so one final one, as we mentioned at the last hearing, we were looking at incorporating an expedited agenda. We prepared the language for that would go into the rules and procedures that followed kind of what we described last time, where you would receive a very brief presentation by staff, a very brief presentation by the petitioner, open it up for any public comment, if any, and then back to the board for hearing. We wrote that into the rules and procedures. However, there were some other elements, other rules and procedures that we had identified that needed some revisions, and we hadn't worked through some of those other things. So you will see that at the April meeting for adoption and approval for your rules and procedures, and then possibly a case on the expedited agenda, just depending on what the agenda looks like.
How will it affect both the petitioner's time limit that we've had in the past as well as the public time limit?
So that's a great question, and certainly something that I wanted to get a little bit of input from. Certainly the rules and procedures right now allow for 5 minutes for public comment. If the board feels that an abbreviated time for public comment is something that you would like to have incorporated in that, we can try to incorporate that as long as the legal department doesn't see any problems with adjusting that time for public comment. So you can certainly adjust that to 2 minutes if you felt appropriate. So we're happy to seek any guidance or input from the board on that item.
What about the petitioner's time?
Petitioners, again, that can be adjusted as well. As you know, the rules and procedures allow for 20 minutes for that. So both of those items, if the board would like to give guidance to staff to abbreviate those time limits, we can certainly incorporate that into the rules and procedures for that.
How would you like to receive those comments from us, by email later or during session?
You know, I think, you know, in whatever manner, certainly we can do that tonight. If the board feels that you would like for us to see, if you would like for us to incorporate revisions to that, you know, and you feel kind of unanimous, we'll put something forward in those rules and procedures. When you see those come to you in April, if you feel like it should be something different, then you can say, you know, we would like to see this be something different and vote on that perhaps. You don't really have a format for how that would look in this case.
Okay.
But if you feel that it would be something that would be desired, we can adjust those two allowances within the rules and procedures.
Well, what we'll do is see where we land at the end of the evening after the petitions. If we feel that we want to have new business at that point, therefore the people that are here can go and we can discuss those issues. Otherwise, we'll address it next month. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Any other reports, resolutions, or communications?
No, that is it from staff.
Okay, thanks. So because we voted and changed that during the reports resolutions, I will also then provide the petition to be continued. Again, for the record, ZR 2026-02-0004, now on April the 23rd. So with that, we will be hearing 5 petitions tonight in this order. They all start with ZR 2026. I'll just give you the numbers: 01-0001, 02-0006. I'm sorry, let me go back. 01-0001, and that's the petition at 618 West House Street. That'll help folks. We have 02-0006, and that is concerning 1205 South Rogers Street. 02-0005, also at 1205 South Rogers Street. And we have 03-0008, and that involves 1320 South Rogers Street. And then we have 03-0009, and that is 302 South College Avenue, 327 South College Avenue, 302 South Walnut. And with that, let's go to the staff. Let's look at the first petition, 01-0001.
I will be presenting that. David Brantez, a zoning planner and GIS analyst, and I will just share my screen. Okay, so this is 618 West House Street, ZR 2026-01-0001. So there are 2 variances being requested, variance from rear setback and max impervious surface coverage for a single-family home in an R3 zoning district. Just to keep it brief here, this is the site plan. And what they're doing is in the back right, where it says existing residence right here, that's a shed roof that will be going up by about 3 feet. So that triggers the rear setback variance. And then there's a new second floor addition. There will be a patio below, and that new impervious surface will trigger the max impervious surface coverage variance. Here, 45% is allowed, and they're going over to 52.9%, but it's still within the range that a brand new lot at 5,000 square feet would be held to. So if it were a normal sized lot that met the minimum for R3, then it would be allowed. So we did not find that it ran afoul of any of the criteria. So with that, staff recommends that the board approve both requested variances, and the petitioner is here as well.
So the petitioner can come forward, and you'll have 20 minutes to give an comment.
Just give me a second here.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry about that. I'm getting used to this new format and jumping, okay? So
please let me know if there's anything.
Yeah,
you'd like
it's,
to clarify.
the issue is the opening these other documentation pieces, just to cross-reference in there. It's just a little bit more difficult than. And then also, could you just restate the recommendations one more time, please, while I'm looking at this?
The recommendation is to approve both the rear setback variance and to approve the max impervious surface coverage variance.
Okay. And just give me one more second, then we'll go on to the petitioner. Okay. Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
I've caught up now. All right, we'll have the petitioner come forward, please. For those that are here, they're petitioners. For the others, the way it'll work is after the report, you'll have 20 minutes to present any additional information or to review the information that has been presented in your petition. That 20 minutes, it can be used all at once in your first opportunity. If you would like to save time and use it at the end, you'll be allowed to use the remainder of your 20 minutes after public comment and after some questions, so that you would be able to then make comment on your own for the remainder of your 20 minutes before we then go to the board for action. So I just want to let you know you don't have to use your 20 minutes right now. You can use part of it and then retain some. I'll ask every one of you the same thing. Would you please state your first and last name?
Kevin Potter.
Kevin, do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You have up to 20 minutes.
My name is Kevin Potter, structural engineer. I'm representing the homeowners, Michael Burnett and Heidi Bidinger Burnett. I did not have anything to present beyond what David presented as part of the staff report. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll go back to the board with any questions we have initially before we go to the public for comment.
No questions.
Seeing no questions then, we'll go back to the public. Anyone wishing to speak to this petition, please come forward. You'll sign in at the podium, and then we'll give you 5 minutes to speak. Anyone online?
If there is anybody online that would like to speak to this petition, please use the raise hand function, and we can recognize you or send a message via chat. I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay. So then we would go back to the petitioner if you do have anything further to say, but it sounds like you're okay?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we'll go to the board for comments, questions to either the petitioner or the staff, or to make a motion.
This is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go make a motion to approve ZR 2026-01-001.
Second.
I'll call the question.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, we're on to ZR 2026-02-0006. Staff report, please.
I'm sorry, could you clarify which one we're doing next?
I have us listed as 2026-02-0006. Is that not correct?
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, I was thrown off by
That's all right.
the continuance here.
Just whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is ZR 2026-020006, and this is an administrative appeal at 1205 South Rogers Street. So the administrative appeal is in regards to the determination that staff made about decorative stone. So this property received a notice of violation for ground cover in a location where it was not approved. And upon further review, we found that this was not decorative stone, as we have been applying that standard to other properties. So administrative appeal is their recourse for that decision, since we don't have really variances from definitions. And in the future, we are looking into, this is on the list for in the future UDO amendments to clarify what we're looking for in decorative stone. So the standard that has been applied before is that the stones be washed and 2 inches or greater across. So to the right, you'll see that is a picture of the 1.5 inch stone that is on the property. And they give us, the petitioner provided specs for that rock. So it has already been installed. And then on the left is an example of something that would also, comply with our standard that we've applied for decorative stone. So it's washed in 2.5 to 6 inches. So as you can see, it's smaller than what we're looking for. And the reasons for that is to prevent washout or any obstacles falling into the roadway or the pedestrian areas. So also stabilization of the material itself so that it stays in place. And then lastly, there is no formal recommendation from staff. It is up to you as the board to decide whether or not to approve the appeal. And that concludes my staff report.
Okay, thank you. Is the petitioner present and would like to speak? Go ahead and sign in, please. Okay. So let's see if I'm reading. State your first and last name, please.
Yeah, it's Josh Alley.
Josh, do you affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, you have up to 20 minutes, same
No, thank
rules
you.
apply. Thank you.
If you don't mind, David, will you put up the pictures that we sent earlier that shows this property? Here, keep going through those if you don't mind. Actually, I'll just, is it okay if I just give you guys these pictures?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh, are those the same pictures that were emailed to us? Okay, all right, thank you.
And what you'll see in the handout that you got, the first is just a letter from the Chamber of Commerce supporting, what we do in Bloomington. We've been fixing ugly houses or rundown houses for about 18 years. And as you can see from one of the first pictures there is that's what the property looked like when we actually purchased this there at 1205 South Rogers Street. And it was quite an undertaking actually bringing this property back to life. And when it was initially done, you'll see kind of the before and after there in what you're looking at. And we had the ground cover and the site plan that was approved, from planning that we tried to make work. And what happened over time, we actually planted this grass 3 different times. We actually put sod, we put fertilizer, we watered it every day, every week. But this area is a high traffic area for pets. A lot of these spots that are on the property, they're really small, and they're all surrounded by concrete, so they get really warm, and it's just not a real great environment for grass to grow, let alone the pets. Every time an animal urinates on the grass, it dies. And so the money that we spent here is more than I care to admit, and we are over budget by quite a lot just due to some of the circumstances with the property itself. And so I made a determination to actually replace the grass with the rock. Honestly, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. If you drive a block north where the new hospital or the old hospital location, all the construction there, the rocks that we put at this site look exactly like the rocks that are there. And so I know we all bought them at the same place. Actually, I think that the fellows who installed the rocks here at 1205 South Ryder Street are the same ones who installed those, and that's actually the reason I did it. And so hoping that just to maintain the integrity and the aesthetics of the property. I want it to look good. I want people to feel proud about living there. I want to be a good neighbor. And like I said, it was really hard to do this. And I wanted to continue the property looking the way it should. And so with regard to the actual rocks and the size, I think the picture that they put up is a little misleading. The rocks here, they're the right size. I mean, anytime you get washed or decorative stone from a gravel company, I mean, there's obviously giant ones, but in the smaller version, this isn't pea gravel. It's river rock like you see like I said, all up and down Rogers and First Street. And so and I wasn't trying to mislead anyone. I just was trying to protect the integrity of the property and do something that I wasn't going to have to continually spend money, grass, fertilizer, and a whole bunch of water here at this site. And so
Would
that's
you like
all
to keep the remainder of your time retained for later?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. And just stay there. We may have questions. I'm going to jump in. Did you happen to bring a picture of your current rock? The disputed rock?
Do you have the pictures?
And then
Yes.
while he's doing that, I just wanted to state, I appreciate the letter from the chamber. I do want to let those who are listening and those that are here in chambers know that we love to see this. This is great. However, this doesn't have any bearing on a decision, and I wanted to let everyone know why. We will be judging based on the UDO and whether we're allowed to vary that or need to uphold that. So this is always nice to know, and it's great to have really good developers and home builders, et cetera, in the community. So we do appreciate that. So thank you for that.
Sure.
But I don't want it to appear that we're not giving it attention.
No, it's
So
fine.
with that, we will be addressing then the issues of the rock specifically. Thank you for that. Do we have a picture? I was just curious because this was good to show the grass, but that's not your picture of the rock, though.
No, sir.
Did you provide one to the city of what currently exists?
Yeah, I figured they would have the pictures and the 11-page violation document that they sent me.
Okay.
that had all
Just so for clarification, the picture on the right is a picture that the department took of the rock, of the stone that is on the ground today.
Okay.
And then the picture on the left is a comparison of a larger decorative stone, which is what we typically see in other developments. So these pictures were just to try to show a difference of the two. The petitioner did show pictures, and we can certainly bring those up. However, we were wanting to make sure, as we kind of surmise that the board would want to see definitively like a close-up picture of what's actually on the ground in order to try to help guide their decision-making process here. So that's why we took a picture of exactly a close-up of what's on the ground, so you can have a good idea of the size and scale of
Sure.
what's there.
So that on the right is the actual stone. Are we able to see, though, how it looks in total?
Yep, so we can certainly go to one of
when
the
you get a
petitioner's
moment, we
exhibits.
can do that. Any other questions from the board?
Well, those two pictures, for comparison's sake, it would have been nice if the ruler was on the other one as well, because it could be a close-up, it could be far away, so it just doesn't give the perspective to the scale.
What I'm hearing from you, Eric, is you're saying that you believe them to be accurate in comparison to scale? Is that,
So the picture on the left was one that was obtained from a website of just a typical supplier.
Okay.
That had a size that was what we use as a typical baseline standard of 1.5 to 2 inches. And so what was depicted in that picture was the size and scale of what is common. So we didn't have, obviously, since we didn't generate that picture, we didn't have the opportunity to put in a scale. But the pictures on the screen is one the petitioner provided, and is of the property as it sits now.
thank you for bringing that up.
So I live in Broadview, so I drive by this every day, and you guys did a magnificent job.
No, thank you.
And I can only imagine the money you probably put into it to make it what it is, but to me, it's one of the best-looking properties in all of that neighborhood now. And so, to me, I mean, I'll just be blunt, like, this is splitting hairs. To me, it looks great. I understand, and I think it's ambiguous in the UDO in terms of 2 inches. Put the ruler next to his, so it's 4. And I understand the reasons for it. You don't want it spilling out. You don't want it going into the sewer line, you know. But I feel like in the scope, again, of a major, massive upgrade in that neighborhood, in that area, and he's going off of what the other developers are doing kind of down the way. I mean, we would make them take it all up and put down 2+ inch rock. I think it's not worth that, considering, you know, the upgrade they've done. So I understand what the UDO says. I think it's kind of ambiguous, though, still. And unless we're going to go out and start putting a tape measure on every few rocks, I think it's fine. So that's all I've got.
So I guess my question is for staff. So the reason we are here is because the staff feels the rock is too small, or is it too much rock, or is it in the wrong location?
Well, so I think that's a great question. So I wanted to point out, you know, we've got 2 petitions on the agenda tonight from the petitioner, both kind of dealing with 2 separate issues. You know, the first petition, which is what we are hearing right now, is the administrative appeal of what is decorative stone. You know, the second petition is a variance to allow for that material to exceed what the UDO allows for. So the conversation for this topic right now is simply what is decorative stone.
So for this specific petition?
Yes, this specific one. The very next petition will be then to hear relief from what the UDO allows for spatial limitations for where that can occur and how much of a property. But this exact petition right now is just simply, is the stone that is on the ground decorative stone or not, based on, you know, what staff kind of relayed in their report and how we have applied this in other developments around Bloomington. You know, when it comes to the question of, you know, what would be required to bring this into compliance, you know, certainly we're not necessarily saying they have to remove everything. You know, we can work with the petitioner to you know, kind of balance what's there with maybe some larger stones in some capacity. But the petition right now is just simply, is what is there decorative stone or not?
So what I might suggest is maybe we should find out if there's anyone in the public that wants to comment, and then, because
Sure.
if we're going to have to decide that, that's a whole,
Okay.
unless you had, did you have
No, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
with staff.
Okay. Well, is there anyone in chambers from the public who'd like to speak to this, or anyone online? I just wanted to jump past that so we could, because these are great questions from the board.
If there is anybody online, please use the raise hand function or send a message via chat. We can recognize you. I'm not seeing anybody online.
Okay. So the procedure here would be, we would give you an opportunity to address some things first. And then we'll have more questions for you. Is there anything you would like to say further from your 20 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, those, I didn't, I mean, I stopped short of bringing some in here for you to see. Those rocks there, I mean, most of them are majority, I mean, they're 2+ inches. I mean, they're the larger, like I said, they're exactly what I mean, actually McDonald's on South Walnut has the same rocks. And so it's, they're not small. And so the picture that was up there is a little misleading, I would say, just because that's not the size that these are.
Okay.
So, and that's all I
Okay,
have.
so with that, then I think we can dive into this. So then the question in front of us then is going to be, what constitutes decorative stone? My first question is the BZA at liberty to set that policy or only for this particular case? Are we saying just for this, or are we saying, once we say this is going to be a standard that gets applied, and why not from?
Yep, so great. So you can certainly give us guidance in terms of what you feel like might be the appropriate standards. As we mentioned in the staff report, we do have some amendments to the UDO definition of decorative stone to help address this and give a little bit more clarity in there, such as stating what that aggregate size would be. So if there are other characteristics that the board feels that we should incorporate with that, we can certainly take that into account. But yeah, in terms of like setting a precedent, with us having amendments to the UDO that are forthcoming and going to the Planning Commission next month, we hope to have clarification within the code of what is decorative stone.
All right, well, I wanted to jump into that last paragraph on page 1 of the staff report. This starts with although, and I just want to understand this. Although there's no definition of decorative stone in the UDO, the department has routinely applied a consistent standard to determine the proposed material. So this consistent standard that's been applied, where did that come from? How was it established?
Yep. So
was that from the city, or was that within the department?
That was within the department. So those standards were based on what are we trying with any standard, what are we trying to accomplish, and what are we maybe trying to prevent. So the reason that decorative stone has a very distinct term, and it doesn't just say stone in general, is to have a higher or aesthetic value for it, to try to differentiate it between smaller stones. As we mentioned in the staff report, smaller stones spread on the site, on the sidewalks and the driveways and the storm sewer. So it's important to have a standard that has a higher size requirement for it, but then also the aesthetic value of that stone to differentiate that from limestone or gravel or other more common materials that maybe you don't want to see, that don't have as great aesthetic value. So when we've dealt with this situation for other developments, the 1.5 to 2 inch standard is what we have used consistently in lots of situations around town, enforcement or occupancy inspection. Anytime that we have petitions that are coming forward and somebody is proposing decorative stone, we always make them give us a sample of that so we can kind of alleviate this before it gets started to make sure that what gets put on the ground, is consistent with how we've applied this.
So the problem, why that's problematic, though, is even if they had provided that to you and you said, well, we find it to be too small, because there is nothing printed that says it needs to be 2.5 inches, he could have violated that anyway and said, well, there is no policy. That actually is your recommendation, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So that's,
Okay.
Staff's interpretation of
Right.
what this definition was trying to accomplish and what that
Right.
term was. So this is where the board comes into play, obviously, of an appeal of that interpretation. And
Was there a fine attached to this currently?
there was a notice of violation. We have not fined them.
And what is that fine if it had gone through?
I would have to look it up. It's a daily number.
Roughly? Yeah. The daily number, okay.
Yeah.
So it would have accrued daily. Okay, thank you.
I have a question for the petitioner. Do you have the specs for, the receipt with
Yes.
the specs?
Yes, I do.
So it should, on the specs for that, it should say what type of rock you're buying, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it did. And so I provided that to planning throughout the process.
Can we see the receipt and specs for it?
Yeah, I would be curious as if the receipt stated decorative rock.
Well, it doesn't, but it does say 2-inch, 3-inch.
Oh, I see.
It says 5-inch.
Okay.
It will say what type of rock you're buying, septic rock, whatever it is.
Well, you guys look at that. I think, shouldn't we account for weight in all of this too? If we're worried about washout, we're worried about the stuff eroding into the stormwater drains, then it's more about weight than it is about size of rock.
Well, so
In terms of the physics of. what you're trying to prevent.
Yeah, in the industry, stone is categorized by size. It passes through a certain, filter, and so that's how they determine kind of when you buy, it's a number 3 stone or number 4, number 5 or 6 or whatever. It's just based on size.
We'll wait and see if we can find the receipt.
Well, I mean, and just one thing to add, that picture, that rock had been there for a couple of weeks when they took that picture. And you'll notice in the parking lot, there's none in the parking lot. And so there's none in the road. It's where it's intended to be. It's not going anywhere unless someone actually
Yeah,
takes it.
I mean, I understand that. I also understand the city side, which is probably not on a normal rain day, but when we have those torrential, that's what we have to balance against. But how long ago did these stones go down?
Oh, probably 3 weeks before I got the initial letter, sir. And so I don't know the exact date.
Well, just roughly from today, how long, a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, probably 3 months, right around 3 months.
Thank you. And while they're looking for that, if we have any further comments that we would like to make, we could do that now while we're waiting to see that receipt.
Oh, I'm curious why we separated the two petitions with the same address when we're talking about, so let's say we decide this is hypothetically,
Yeah.
that this is a decorative stone, then the next petition, we are going to be talking about, now it's too much stone.
Yeah, it's just one has to be issued as an administrative appeal, the other has to be issued as a variance.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
the only reason to separate them. That was my understanding going into it. I think that what's interesting about where we are is that, the petitioner has a very good case to simply say nothing's printed. There's no guidelines for that. And I went by the spirit of the UDO, and then to put forward what would be a financial burden because of the ambiguity. And while I respect and like the fact that the city has a recommendation, it's not adopted as a policy.
Correct.
So that's what makes this very difficult to
Sure.
not grant the appeal.
Well, I think it's a slippery slope to base things on ambiguity.
Yeah.
I think that's really like where I don't think we can do that. And the city can propose it as such, but we have the ability to say, no, we want concrete things. And this is not concrete at all. And so I totally agree with you, Joe.
This may be it here. Is that giving you the information that, well, it actually says 1 to 2 inch non-structural. Is that right? 1 to 2 inch non-structural decorative river rock, is that?
Yeah, there's another invoice in there too from where they buy it from the Rogers Group,
Okay.
that will give another.
There's, yeah.
Yeah, because they certainly look larger there in that photo, but
So
there's no scale.
small to read. Can you read?
I'm not seeing the size on the second one.
So, Flavia, just looking at that for me, I mean, it looks like the spirit of the UDO was met on this particular appeal. What are the thoughts of the board or comments at this point? Or I should say further comments.
So you're saying drop the appeal? I mean, you're saying,
Oh, I'm saying right now, based on whatever motion is made, I could see a valid, I could see validity in granting the appeal.
yes.
I could see that
There's
based on
no
the ambiguity.
specific guidance on size,
Right.
shape, size, and color, if you will.
Yeah, I just don't think we're in
At this
that
point.
position to make that decision based on the financial burden. And
So I
also
would feel comfortable saying this is decorative stone because it's not gravel.
It's not gravel, and also on there at 1 to 2 inches, so it looks like it was
Yes,
butted
so
up against the spirit
the
of the law.
size might be wrong based on what the city expects,
Yeah.
but
The only other question, though, that I would have for the city would be, for the staff, is, was the petitioner required, though, to bring to you that they were going to make this change, or was it within their purview to do it if it had been of the proper size? Could they have just done it? Or even if it's of the proper size, would they still have had to come to you and say, we're not going to continue with grass or mulch or whatever, we're going to go to stone? Would they have had to come to you for a request?
So there were some portions of the site that had, when we approved the permit for the initial construction, there were some portions of the site that had a decorative stone. It was kind of a slate shown around some of the building. They brought us a sample of that. We looked at that and approved it. And so they used that for some of the portions of the site around the building. So the stone that was placed later was not brought to us before it was installed.
But was it, it should have been, though. But were they required to do that and failed to do so?
We strongly advise people to give us these samples before they put it down so that we don't deal with after-the-fact situations where we're trying to enforce the removal of something once it's been put down. Certainly, we recognize there's a lot of challenges and burden is placed on somebody once they put down a substantial amount of stone and then they have to remove it. So we try to work with them and guide them on the early end of the process to bring us these things before you put it down, because there's a wide opinion, in the construction and landscape world of what's decorative stone and what's not. Oftentimes things that are billed as decorative are, one person's version of that. And so that's where we try to come in of applying a uniform standard across all the sites and not just going by what somebody puts on their website of what they consider to be decorative.
Well, what I was trying to get to is I want to ascertain whether the petitioner actually violated a stated policy or whether it's only a recommendation or a preference that they bring it to you.
Yeah, it's not a law that they have to bring that in to show us. We just recommend that.
Yeah, you strongly encourage it, strongly urge them to?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, or do I have a motion? Thank you, Eric. I will say, if a motion's made, a motion to approve the administrative appeal would be to grant the appeal, and to deny would be to deny it, and he would be in violation.
I'll make a motion to approve ZR 2025.
26, sorry. Is it 2026?
2026.
I thought I had, is it 2026?
I think that's, okay. Yeah, to approve the appeal for ZR 2026-02 0006.
Okay. That's good. Okay.
Thank you.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes. With that, the appeal is granted. We will move then to 2026-02-0005, which I believe is the next in the order for this property. Is that correct? Yes. So for a variance from the maximum impervious surface coverage. With that, you should have a seat. You'll remain sworn in. So when you come back up, you won't need to do that again, and you get a fresh 20 minutes. Staff report, please.
Okay, so before you is petition ZR 2026-02-0005 at 1205 South Rogers Street. There are 3 variance requests due to the location of the decorative stone or ground cover. So the first is maximum impervious surface coverage. The second, kind of in tandem with that standard, is the minimum landscape area, and also ground cover standards which govern where decorative stone could be placed on the property. So this is the site. It is zoned residential multifamily. And it's about 8,700 square feet. It's been developed with a multifamily dwelling. And our understanding is that in 2024, that is when the most recent site plan was approved. I believe that was a limited compliance scenario. So it did not have to meet the standard for any new construction in residential multifamily. So it is not following those exact same guidelines. So here, this is the 2024 site plan. And as you can see, there are some existing areas with decorative stone around the AC units. And then beyond that, there's grass around the trees. So we're looking bottom right corner, and then bottom left corner, and then top right corner is where there's grass, and then there's landscaping around the rest of it. And this is what is there now. So this is the petitioner's proposal, and those areas to the bottom right, the top right, and the bottom left along Rogers Street have been converted from grass or landscape area into stone. So for the first criteria, we found that for the maximum impervious surface coverage, the granting of the variance would be injurious to the public health, safety, and morals, and general welfare of the surrounding area, as it would bring the property further out of compliance and exacerbate stormwater and runoff impacts, as this is now impervious area. In tandem with that, the landscape area also decreased, so that is also determined to be injurious. And the ground cover standard, which is in the staff report as well, it says, except in the Parks and Open Space Zoning District, turf grass and other vegetative ground cover shall be used for landscape areas except as listed below. Crushed rock or gravel is not allowed as ground cover. And then the exceptions mentioned in that section refer to the two locations where decorative stone can be placed near the foundation of the building and underneath the stairs. So those are written to minimize impacts on that getting into the street or getting into the sidewalk. So we found that that was also problematic and injurious as well. For the second criteria, the use and value of the adjacent properties, we found that none of these variances would adversely impact that area, adversely impact the use and value of the adjacent properties. And then for max impervious surface coverage, we found that there was no hardship or peculiarity about this property that means that it should be subject to a different impervious surface coverage maximum, no topographical constraints or things of that nature, like environmental things. So in RM, the standard that all new development is held to is that 40% be set aside for landscaping and 60% can be covered with impervious surface. And under their limited compliance that was approved in 2024, there used to be more pavement on the property. So when it was approved, they only had to come down to 69% impervious rather than 60. So what the petitioner proposed is 92% coverage of that property. But we did not find that there was a hardship that necessitated that be the case, rather than the 69% that was approved. So in the same vein, we didn't find that there was any reason that different plants other than grass or a different type of grass or some other viable alternative could have been put here rather than the stones that were placed. So we did not find a hardship there. And then lastly, for the location of where decorative stone can be placed, around the foundation of the building and under the stairs. That is applied to all properties in RM, RH, and all mixed-use properties, and we did not find that there was anything different or peculiar about this property that meant that it would be impossible to follow that standard. So we didn't find a reason to support adding decorative stone beyond those areas that we've allowed it in code. So with that, the department recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the proposed findings and deny these 3 variances. And, sorry, one last
Sure.
thing I missed. This is the approved site plan from 2024. This is the proposed site plan, and I know that these are all in grayscale and it's a little bit difficult to see.
Flip those again. So,
yep.
The 2024 proposed, I'm sorry, and then continue after that. So that was approved. Okay, I wanted to know what the difference was in our packet. Thank you. Go
Yes. And then this is proposed. So again, the rock is in the bottom right, the top right, and then across Rogers on the far left. And I've highlighted the areas in red that have been turned from grass or mulch or landscaping, plants of some sort, into decorative stone. So this is that 69% coverage of impervious area to 92%.
Where's Rogers?
Rogers is to the left, so north is up.
But that particular image is not in our packet.
No, this is
Okay.
just something for the.
I just wanted to
for the
make
staff
sure.
report.
I didn't want to look for it if it wasn't there.
Correct,
Thank you.
right. You will not find it there.
So anybody can raise that up past the
Text.
text so we can see it fully.
Yes, if you give me a second to exit. Is that better?
There you go.
Okay.
And again, the red, it notes the changeover, or what was?
Yes, from landscaping or grass or something to stone.
Okay, and that completes the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go ahead and jump to the petitioner, then you have, again, up to 20 minutes. If you'd like to speak to this, please.
I would say a couple of points here. The rocks that we put down, I mean, they're not impervious. There's the same ground is under there, and so like I said earlier, I've replaced the grass. I tried to replant the grass 3 times, one of those being sod. Was spending money on fertilizer, spending money on water, and the ending result was what you see in some of the pictures that I gave you there. It was just a bunch of mud and crabgrass. We just couldn't get grass to grow. It's the same pictures that I sent you guys. And then every bush, all the landscaping, all the bushes, like everything that was in the original plan is still there. The mulch is there, all the trees are there, all the bushes are there, the exact species that they want, they're all there. And so the only thing that we replaced was the grass. And so just because it was mud. And I would imagine if I just let it go, one, the property ends up looking a lot like it did when it started, not to the same extreme, but it looks bad. But then two, people are tracking in mud on the sidewalk, they're tracking in mud to Feast Restaurant or to, all of our neighbors to the north and to the south. And then 3, if I did nothing, if I just, let it run down and go back to the shape that it was before, and it was just a bunch of mud there, would I've ended up right back here? Would I've got the same fine? Would I say the same 55 pages of documents that said, that I was doing something wrong? And the only reason that I did what I did is, 1, because just trying to protect the property, and 2, like I said, I didn't believe I was doing anything wrong, because if you go up and down Rogers and First Street, where a lot of the new construction is they've got the same stone.
If that's
Yes, sir.
for the initial, then we'll withhold your other 18 minutes if you need it. With that, we're going to go back to the board, so stay there, we may have questions for you. Questions from the board?
I just got a quick one to clarify, because we see these proposals all the time, and I'll be honest, and I'm in the financial field, I still have to do the math and redo the math to make sure it's not a very straightforward scenario sometimes on these developments in terms of how to getting in compliance and then staying in compliance. So you're wanting relief from these things because you're saying you didn't know you were going to be out of compliance on all three. Is that correct?
I didn't know. Like, my intent wasn't to be out of compliance. It wasn't to mislead or, be devious or anything like that, sir. It's just to fix a situation that people were complaining about, and I couldn't get grass to grow. That was it. It wasn't, honestly, like, the compliance thing, when I saw everything up the street, it never entered my mind that I would be here and having to spend a bunch of money redoing site plans and things of that nature. And I never dreamed I'd be here talking about rocks.
Sure. And then can I ask staff real quick question? Who caught this and how did somebody on staff driving up and down Rogers see this property after it was developed and say, they're probably out of compliance on these three things? Or how is that monitored, I guess is my question. Or is it just is there a process of ensuring compliance once everything's been approved?
So yes, we have two enforcement staff that do inspect properties and give like an occupancy inspection. In this instance, I'm not exactly sure when that 2024 plan had an occupancy inspection, but reports could come through your report, for example, to note when there are violations of the UDO, but it could also be staff observation. For this one, I did not come prepared to tell you how it.
Yeah, I
was
believe
reported.
this came about because we were doing the occupancy inspection.
That's what I was exactly. what I was gonna
So it
say.
had not
You need hand
received that
permits.
final. So we were doing
That's-
that final occupancy
He's shaking
inspection.
his head no.
That's incorrect.
So, okay, state your point, and then I'd like to hear his.
Give me a minute and I can look into that.
Okay, thanks.
I guess my question is may I ask a question? While you're looking at there, Eric, just a quick question to the petitioner. When you have a plan, you know where the landscape goes, you know where the rock goes, you know where plants will go, where the structure will go. Did you ever thought about talking to the city and asking what is a solution here before you put rock down there? I mean, because ground cover is not just grass. It could be, there are several types of ground cover that you can use, that it's plants, that it would not be, that it would detain from being muddy and it would grow. And
No, did it enter my mind to call them? No, ma'am, it didn't. And like I said before, one, because up the street had the same stuff, so I didn't anticipate it being a problem. And then two, I just wanted to fix a problem. I wanted it to look better, and I didn't want to spend any more on money on grass, and I didn't want, the tenants that live there that wanted to enjoy the property. I wanted the complaints to stop, so my staff didn't have to field any more phone calls.
yeah, because when you did the plan, there was impervious area. You knew that how much impervious area was going to be on the plan, and the plan was approved for such. So when you change anything on the plan that was an approved plan, you're out of compliance.
When we put down rock, rocks are still, the water runs right through the rock the same as it would the grass. Well, in this case, it was mud. And so I didn't believe I was doing anything wrong, ma'am. And like I said before, every single aspect of what was approved and when we got our CO is still there. Like every bush, every tree, all the mulch, like it's all there. The only thing that we corrected was the grass that we couldn't grow, that we actually tried to grow.
So we were doing a final occupancy inspection. It's possible the building department may have given an occupancy, but the city planning department did not give a final occupancy, so that's what we were doing.
So building department gives the final occupancy,
They should wait for us. We issue a recommendation of
right,
final
but they
occupancy.
didn't. So he's got the final occupancy. He can put people in those units, right? He's,
I can't testify if he's got final occupancy from building. I'm just saying from the planning department's perspective, we had not issued a final
right,
occupancy.
what I'm trying to get at is if final occupancy should not have been granted because he was out of compliance, then that should have happened. He should not have been given those occupancy permits. And that's between planning and building.
Oh, sorry.
Is that right or no? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
Jackie came out of nowhere. You can't come out of nowhere, Jackie.
What? Jackie Scanlon, Assistant Director.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Occupancy. What, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I just wanted you to introduce yourself.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
Yeah, we didn't know you were there.
You can get occupancy from the Monroe County Building Department on a temporary status, so I'll double check, but if he got a temporary occupancy, the only things we're checking are safety for pedestrians to get to the building and striping of the parking, and then he can occupy the building. You do not need a final occupancy or a final occupancy recommendation from us to have tenants in there. So we didn't like miss a step. He's allowed to have people in there. What I think happened, but I'm trying to confirm, is that then we saw that he did that and said like, hey, you can't do this, but we are not, that's not what we're checking here at temporary, but just so you know, this is gonna have to be fixed at some point. And I do not know if a final occupancy inspection ever occurred, because what we normally advise people is, if we know you have a violation there, don't spend your money on an inspection, because we're not gonna be able to give it to you.
Is that in writing?
Recording stopped.
Which part?
Well, he's shaking his head no here, so I guess we'll let him. Yeah, go ahead and speak your part.
Planning actually came back during the whole process. We had the last, and I remember
Are you
this.
talking to the mic?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Planning came back twice, actually, because once to do the final occupancy, and we were.
Recording in progress.
We were cited because we didn't have the correct species of a bush. And it was later deemed that we did have the correct species of a bush. And so that whole process, without all that stuff happening, they did come back again to inspect the property the second time, and they should have given us, again, like if you go to opengov.org or whatever in the portal, we have our final certification of occupancy. And if we hadn't done what we were supposed to and had at the time, I believe it was in the early spring that the grass was growing, but then it all died. But they made us wait before some of that ground cover came in and some of those bushes grew before they would actually give us the final approval.
I wanted to walk through a couple of these things. I want to start with the staff. So the three items are the maximum impervious, and then the minimum landscape area, and then the ground cover standards. Okay, so I'm a little confused on the maximum impervious. So the additional coverage of these stones resulted in it being impervious?
Yes, so we have a definition of impervious surface coverage, and it includes gravel,
Okay.
and stone is gravel.
That was my question. So that definition then states that gravel is not something that allows water to run through.
Correct.
Okay. That's what was confusing to me because I did not, I'm looking at 15 different things, so I just didn't see a definition that said that. Was
Yep,
that in here?
And that's
or-
in the UDO right now. It's not an interpretation. It very clearly says
Right.
gravel.
So that is the UDO statement,
Yes.
and we would have to, by definition, abide by the fact that that much gravel is considered impervious.
Yes.
That was my question. That's the first part, because that confused me without having the UDO in front of me. Okay. I'm also then this is for the petitioner, trying to understand the minimum landscape areas. So you're telling me that you feel that all of let's take grass out of it, but all of the plantings met your site plan,
Oh, yeah.
and they're still there.
Yes, sir.
So what we're dealing with here is the loss of the vegetation, which would be grass, that is landscaping.
Yes.
That allows water and everything to seep into the ground as opposed to the gravel. So that's what we're dealing with. I want to make sure that's clear. And then the ground cover standards is still going back to that stone. The stone is not the grass, doesn't supersede it, and also even now, you could look at it and say the stone isn't within the recommended standards, right?
Yeah, so the UDO says, only the that decorative stone or mulch can only extend a certain distance from trees and shrubs, so that's the third variance is requested.
Because the largest issue to consider for us is the need for that gravel to be underneath drip lines, et cetera, so that's an important aspect of why that is allowed out so far from the building.
Yes, the general intent of the UDO is we want living materials on site to the extent possible. We recognize that certain limited areas underneath landscaping, for maintenance purposes, do oftentimes need mulch or stone or decorative stone in order to kind of protect the plant a little bit and just be realistic of where grass can grow. But this is a standard obviously that applies throughout Bloomington in all situations. Everybody, tons of situations would love to cover more of their property with stone or mulch, but this standard is there and is applied consistently throughout the city.
I'm looking at the updated plan. You showed me the 2024 and then the proposed. So walk me through, looking at that proposed, the updated one, how much of that would have to be, of what I'm looking at, would have to be replaced with grass to come in compliance of the impervious? All of it?
No, not all of it. So decorative stone or mulch is allowed 6 feet around trees and then 1 foot beyond the drip line of shrubs. The initial approved site plan, the 2024 site plan, had a very limited mulch ring around some of the trees, had mulch shown around some of the shrubs that was compliant. You can look at that, in essence, the drip line of those trees, 3 foot diameter, 6 foot radius is what's allowed there.
Yeah, could you put up that
6 foot
proposed?
diameter, 3 foot radius.
Could you put up the proposed one, not the 20?
Sure.
So it sounds to me that what we're talking about is if you look at that approved ground planting and landscaping design, is you're essentially talking about everything that's away from that building by however many inches it is. So you've got the drip line area there around the building that can remain as gravel. And then underneath those items that are noted as trees, they could have the gravel stay there. But it looks like everything else would have to be taken out and planted with some kind of ground cover, whether it's grass or an ivy or something, correct?
Yes, some approved ground cover. It could be flowers, could be ivy, could be
but
grass.
something that's non-stone or
mulch.
Yeah,
Yep.
impervious, right. Okay, so you're looking at all of that kind of gray area that doesn't have something over the top of it would have to be converted.
Yeah, so you can see here they've shown mulch. That is the darker shaded areas around some of the landscaping, so that's compliant in terms of what's allowed adjacent to there. So the lighter gray is the areas, for the most part, that would have to be returned to grass.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Throckmorton, can I clarify for Mr. Ballard what I said before? I was able to find records of the inspection.
Yes.
So we did do a final occupancy inspection, as Mr. Alley described, where there was only some plan changes that need to be made, and that was in October of '24, which I think Mr. Brandt has probably covered in his report. And then we received a complaint in October of '25 about the rocks, and that's what started up the conversation about the NOV that was issued.
A year later. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you.
If we don't have any questions, we can go to the public for comment, and then we can continue this. Do we have further questions at the moment?
No.
You sure? Okay. Is there anyone in public here that would like to speak to this petition? Seeing none, anyone online?
Yes, we do have one individual online. CG, you should be able to speak.
Could
Hi, can you hear me?
could you please state your name and wait for a moment?
Casey Green, can you hear me?
Thank you. You'll have 5 minutes, but do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, so I'd first like to say I really appreciate any challenges that, they're facing on this property. My experience is that I have an environmental science degree. I'm a member of MC Iris, and I am a certified pesticide applicator, in addition to having foster dogs that are being allowed right now. I'm so sorry. It's my understanding that a lot of this has to do with preventing people from simply, replacing grass with stone, and it kind of sounds like that's what's happening here. And so I would just like to speak to, I know that it doesn't make intuitive sense that bare dirt or even turf would be treated like an impervious surface, but I can assure that if you're doing the calculations of how much floodwater is, like how fast that uptake is happening, how much fertilizer runoff is getting into our waterways, it really is comparable to an impervious surface. And so I guess I'm wondering, I love that there are shrubs there, I love that there are trees there, it sounds like there was attention to getting the right species, but I guess I'm wondering if there's been any attempt to use some drought-tolerant landscaping. I'm thinking of, yarrow, there's native white sage, there's false agave, buffalo grass is very, very drought tolerant. It's used in the plains out west, and it actually only gets to like 6 inches anyway, so you never have to mow it. That's a really resilient one, especially with pets. I would like to note that ivy is highly, highly invasive, so that would not be recommended. But I'm thinking that even if there's just a little bit of that around the edges, that would alleviate the concern of the water backup and washing the smaller decorative stone gravel kind of hybrid off of the property, because it sounds like we're kind of stacking issues here, which is we're stacking the propensity for runoff and we have smaller stone size. Maybe the petitioner is just not aware of some of these options, or maybe it was a financial decision, but it does sound like a lot of finance has been poured into, fertilizers and conventional grass. So I guess I'm wondering if maybe one of these other alternatives that are drought tolerant would be a good option. And that concludes my comment.
Okay, thank you for that. And anyone else online who would like to make comment?
If there's anybody else online, please use the raise hand function or send a message via chat. We can try to help you. I'm not seeing anybody else online.
So where we are here is we can come back to you now, and you can use the remainder of your time for any additional comments, okay? After that point, then it'll come back to the board, and then you'll only be able to address questions that we give to you at that point, but no additional just free-form comments, okay? So you have, I think, like 18 minutes. Is that correct? Do you have anything you'd like to say at this point?
No, just the only thing I would like to add is, in terms of just my thought process, I didn't want to deviate from the plan just because I had the issue where, and to be honest, some species, I don't know what species of a bush is and what's not. Like if the landscaper shows up and it's on the plan that we give them that's approved, we pay them to do the work, and they generally do a really good job for us. And so in this situation, we made sure everything else was good. It was living, and the only reason I took the grass out is because I couldn't really get it to grow. And I put the rocks down that I didn't think would be an issue because they're everywhere else. And so that was my thinking. And so that's all I'd like to add.
My only question is, this isn't the only thing that you've built or developed in the city, correct?
No, sir.
So I'm trying to understand, though, were you unaware that stone did not count as impervious?
I didn't. I mean, in my mind, the water was going to run. It's still going to end up in the same spot, whether there's grass or stone.
That's what I'm trying to ascertain, is that in all the time that you've done other stuff, you've never run up against that piece of information that you were told?
Not, honestly, no.
Okay.
I mean, I know what gravel is. I know what fill gravel is. I know what we use, when we're digging and laying foundations and things. And this is very obviously not that. And so, no, I didn't believe it'd be an issue.
Okay, I was just trying to ascertain, so that was a decision you made. There was nothing from the city that at all indicated to you that that was appropriate. You looked at other properties, or you just felt that it was gravel? And okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? while they're thinking, I mean, I will tell you that it's difficult for us to grant a variance on not knowing the code. So that's, not knowing it on your end is difficult for us then to provide a variance, because that's not an unusual or peculiar situation that really warrants us being able to say, well, we can grant you that. I want to explain that to you as we consider this, of what to do. I know it sometimes seems unfair, and it's also difficult because you also don't know how many of those properties down the street were grandfathered from years ago. We don't know that, so that's why we only look at the particular property in front of us. So I just only want to explain that to you so you know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and like I said, I knew, like, just because it's the rock, it doesn't make it impervious. And so impervious versus pervious, like I know what that is. I know how that is in the code, and that's why I didn't believe that I was doing anything wrong,
Okay.
sir.
No, I appreciate you letting us know that. That's what we're trying to weigh. Thank you.
The other thing that I mean, in the approved plans, there's a bunch of mulch, and there's no mulch there, correct?
Oh, no, all the mulch is still there, ma'am.
Exact to in the area, because from the photo, it looks like that whole entire bottom part is rock now.
No, all the mulch and where the mulch originally was, the mulch is still there, and it's been replaced.
Put up the picture with the red,
Yeah, with the red.
we can see the contrast.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, so the rock is taking over parts of where the mulch was.
No. The only place where the rocks were added was where the grass was. All the mulch is, the mulch that was originally there, all the mulch is still there. All the bushes, all the trees, everything is still there.
So the picture that you provided to us that had the actual sign, Cream and Crimson Management, you see a small oak tree there, and you see the face of the stairs. You're indicating that only all along underneath those bushes and around that tree, that's all still mulched?
Yes, sir.
And it's just the areas that we're looking at that's kind of dying or somewhat green grass, that's all been changed?
Yes, sir.
So essentially, you dug out just the grass areas that died?
Yes.
And replaced them?
Yes.
But when you look at the one that showed the curb with the utility box there buried in the ground, I mean, that's all stone now?
Yes, sir.
So that's a great deal of stone that's right there along the road surface, okay? I just want to make sure.
Well, and I'll tell you that that's actually not my property, sir. That specific, where that utility.
That's not? Okay.
No.
So that, we're not dealing with that, okay?
No.
All right. So
But
I
when
just want to make sure I'm seeing it and reading it the same. I see the mulch now that it's pointed out.
Wait, this is not you?
No, that's not my property. But when planning came back the final time, they wanted me to improve that area and.
Is this one yours?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They wanted you to improve it?
Yeah.
Are those side by side there?
No. I've got as a side note, how is that allowed? How can we request a petitioner it's not his property, if he's saying, this is not his property, this is not his property?
I'm sorry, I don't, can I see that picture? I don't know exactly where that is.
It's on the north side. Is that right?
Yep. It backs up to the feast.
That's right, yeah. So that's not you?
No, sir. But I
They
was
want
asked.
you to improve it.
They did.
Did you?
I did. I had to.
So,
Yep, so looking at the site plan here.
it's not right?
You can see just a little bit of the sliver of that northwest corner based on their survey that has grass on their property. The majority of that is not on the petitioner's property. So I don't, without speaking to the rest of our staff, I cannot verify anything that the petitioner is stating that we have said in terms of what improvements they have to make. Certainly, we can't require somebody to make an improvement on property that's not theirs.
So, then to the petitioner, did they ask you to improve this section of land that's not yours?
Yes, sir.
Did you do it?
Yes, sir.
So that's on the record. I find that very troubling, that we allow a planning department to go in and dictate to non-owners of properties. I've been in real estate a long time. That crosses a real line. So that being aside, you did improve it, because I'll drive by there tonight. You improved it. I'm trusting you're being honest about it. That just kind of makes this even more questionable to me in terms of how we want to say to petitioners, you're going to go in and do all these things, but we still want this. But he doesn't own it, but we still want you to improve it, but I don't own it. But you need to improve it, and he did. That's a problem.
Sure, I don't have any information to support that or refute that in any manner.
But I think we can all three agree, it's not the first time we've come across this kind of situation. Am I wrong? In terms of asking them to improve land on land that's not. So anyways,
So I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. So
right, it seems hypocritical.
That was
I guess is
improved
what
to
I'm saying.
grass, right? That was improved to grass by the petitioner at the time, right?
Right, it seems hypocritical to me that we can do that. That we can require a petitioner who's made a vast investment, a vast improvement, bringing up all property values all around. That's where I think, I'll just say that I disagree with, I think staff one time said we don't negotiate with petitioners, and I think we do. And this is the very reason we do that. So that kind of changes my viewpoint in terms of, I understand how we have to vote on this. We have to vote within what the UDO says, not what we wish the UDO said. And so, as Joe's kind of mentioned, like, our hands are tied to a point. You're out of compliance. That's the bottom line. There's not enough compelling evidence, findings of fact, for us to overturn that. But as a side note, I just want to be on the record saying I have an issue with requiring improvements on property that's not owned by the petitioner. And that's it.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up to what Tim is saying is I think we've had other situations where I know just in the last probably 6 months where a petitioner said, well, I'm happy to take care of this portion of a sidewalk or whatever that kind of went off their property. So what I don't know is whether it was a negotiated or whether it was offered. And so that's in that case. But I get your point here is if the city goes to this petitioner and says, you know, you can do this plan, but we want you to do this on someone else's property. That I can see where that would be problematic, but at the same time, if it was from the other direction saying, hey, I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and just do it. So knowing the facts of that would be helpful, but Tim's point is very valid, which is it could be troubling.
Sure, and I'll just say from staff's perspective, we have never in reviewing a site plan required somebody to do something off of their property.
So I would want to know who the staff person was that stated this to the petitioner. I think that should be known.
Sure, and I have no idea what these improvements are. I have no other information to back this up on any way other than to say from our perspective, when we are reviewing site plans, we never look beyond a property line of something unless there are drainage issues, you know, we're going into a lot of unknowns here.
Yeah, no, right, right. That's a topic, that's a conversation for a later date, probably with David to have, I would say.
Flavia?
Back to what is in front of us. What is in front of us is the maximum impervious surface coverage that has gone from 69% to 92%. It's the minimum landscape area. All the bushes are there, all the trees are there, the correct species. But once you remove the grass, now you remove vegetation. The ground cover standards, you should have ground cover. I think our situation here is it's just the wrong ground cover for where the grass existed. So looking at this, I cannot find a way to work around it. You know, I cannot find a way to justify approving it.
Yeah, I think,
We have hard numbers.
right.
There's the approved plan. It's everything, it's what the UDO says in terms of impervious surface. Now, I appreciate what the public today has shared, but it's not what is in the UDO right now. So we can't go against the UDO.
Right, which is 69%.
Correct.
Right, and that was the gist of my earlier comments, which was trying to establish whether the petitioner knew that that was actually classified. And I was just curious, it's heartening to know he wasn't aware of that, but it's disheartening because that still then makes him responsible for it regardless.
Correct. And if you have built anything in Bloomington, Indiana, you know that the impervious surface is
A
a
critical part of the UDO.
critical part of
Yeah.
your plan. So,
I think I'm aligned with you in that the first request for a variance, which is of the maximum impervious surface, I don't think that that can be granted based on how clear the UDO is.
no.
Okay. So then the question becomes the minimum landscape area. So we have minimum landscape areas that seem to already be within compliance of the plan that was put forth. We're being told, now does the city object to that? We're being told that the plan that he showed us, and I'm not talking about grass, I'm only talking about the remainder, anything outside what was listed as grass, so the mulched areas, et cetera, those are all within what the petitioner promised, correct?
So it looked like on the mulch rings, at least for the trees, there was additional area that mulch could have been added. They were showing a tighter ring probably than, what the UDO would have allowed
that's
for.
what I think.
So there's probably some extra area that they could have some mulch.
Okay.
Possible solutions to remediate it are plant some additional shrubs or something within those areas to, expand that area where mulch is allowed to be within that area. So it's not a situation where they have to remove all of the gravel or the stone that's there. They can
Exactly.
supplement that with some landscaping and it would be compliant. Certainly we're willing to work with the petitioner to bring the site into compliance and find a way to kind of get to a happy place.
Yeah, but I'm looking at, I just want to make sure that it's not incorrect for me to say the city is not saying that he has not put in the plantings, aside from grass, that were promised on the site plan.
Correct.
Which is what he maintained. I want to make sure that in that specific instance that we're aligned.
Yes.
Yes, and I understand he could expand some of those mulch areas. So that's the first part. I was just trying to get that clear. And then now we have to deal with the ground cover
cover.
standards as well. But we have to decide what are we going to do about the minimum landscape? Are we going to require that stone to be, are we going to deny that variance because he needs to take out that stone and replace it, or extend the current areas of mulch in order to overcome that 69%, or to reach that 69% threshold? So I think that's where we're at, because I don't know if Tim agrees, but it sounds like the first issue is
Yeah, we're good on that. That's a denial.
okay. So if that's the case, then we need to find a way for the petitioner he needs to come down to the 69%. All right?
And the way to do that is either adding mulch.
Adding mulch, as Eric was saying, that could be added, and then plantings could also be added to that mulched area.
Well, we have a couple different variances that are on the table. The impervious surface and the landscaped area, those are in essence the same things. And then the third variance really of, how far can mulch extend from a piece of landscaping? That can be solved in a different capacity,
But we're talking about having a motion that, the start of a motion, and this is not a motion, this is just for discussion. It could be we move to approve the variance item number 2 and 3 with stipulations on it, and deny variance number 1. We could have language such as that by saying, okay, no to the impervious. We will grant a variance on the minimum landscape area so long as these conditions are met to bring it back within the 69%, and we will allow for variance on the ground covers.
Well, I have a question on the landscape area though, but does landscape is not just plantings,
Yeah.
correct? Landscape is plantings plus mulch plus ground cover.
Yeah, so landscaped area basically in this instance is anything that is grass, mulch, landscaping, shrubs, not an improved surface,
Yes.
gravel, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree with Joe's crafting of deny, approve, but conditions on 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think where I'm going with that is that I do think that we need to get this property back into the 69% threshold. That's number one. I do think that we still have discussions about, what constitutes ground cover and things like that, what we're willing, to vary.
Can we give that over to you guys?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you-
Yeah, we don't have to
That's not our
sort.
We don't have to. no.
Yeah, those aren't, we don't get, literally, that's getting in the weeds. We don't.
So it could be a much more general, so deny number one, but a grant 2 so long as it meets the 69%, and grant 3 so long as the ground covering comes within compliance of what the city recommends. Is that what you're saying, something like that?
Yes.
Does that work?
Well, so 1 and 2 kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. That's what I'm thinking. The
1 and 2,
landscape-
minimum landscape area?
Yes.
Yes, the minimum landscape area refers
Because it's
to how
area.
much.
It's not how many bushes. It's an area. It's a,
Well, I'm just saying, you have a maximum impervious, you need to have 69%.
yes, so then you will need to have the other part.
Well,
will
I'm
have
saying
to
if
be
if
landscaped.
we're denying a variance on that, we're just denying that. We're denying the right for them to not have to abide by, or are we saying, it depends on how it's written, I didn't look at it. Is it saying that they must meet the maximum impervious? Is that what number 1 is?
Yes, so the first variance is to request more of the property to be covered.
That's from the city, though. I thought the petitioners was to receive relief from that.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you have to vote no. He cannot have relief from that. That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So that's correct if I say you have to vote no on item 1 to deny the petitioner the right to go against the maximum impervious.
Yes.
Okay, that's my point.
And so what we're saying, though, is number 2 goes hand in hand with that, because that deals with, again, how much of a property can be covered by something that's not grass or landscaping or mulch.
Right, but I thought that the point of us, how did you state that? You said
I think I got confused.
was,
If I'm honest here,
I thought it was to have the petitioner go back to the city and work out how that minimum.
So where we can work out would be number 3 of how far away from a tree or a shrub mulch can extend from.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, so that,
So they
and,
can put down mulch
Right.
and still be in compliance with the minimum landscaped area,
Right.
because mulch does not count as impervious surface coverage.
I understand that, but are you maintaining that you would deny number 2? You can deny it because it won't, if it doesn't live up to the minimum landscape areas, it's not going to reach the 69% is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, that's more clear. So essentially, the question comes, how do we, well, he would just have to come in compliance then. That's it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was looking at it a different way based on that conversation of can you expand what's there little by little?
Oh, sure.
That was where I was
They
getting
can
at.
expand it with mulch, not with the stone.
Right, so that's why I was separating the two. I got it.
Got it.
Okay. Any other notions here?
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, that's very good.
I
Thank
think
you.
we were both, but you guys clarified that. Thank you.
We get to the same spot. Thank you, Eric. Does Jackie want to weigh in? Is this her case? Oh, okay. Do I have any further discussion, or are we ready to make a motion?
We're ready to make a motion. Make a motion for ZR 2026-02-005 on the maximum impervious surface. We propose a denial. On a minimum landscape area, we propose a denial. On the ground cover standards in residential multifamily, we propose that the petitioner coordinates with the city with approved ground covers for those areas. Does that work?
So you are denying variance 1 and 2?
Correct.
And conditional on 3 with city approval of the ground cover standard? Or is it just easier to deny it?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to tell you. I guess I'm confused. So I'm confused
So
on what you're.
That you would approve the ground cover. The city would
Yes,
approve
so
the
you would
type-
deny the variance, and we would work with them to make sure the property's into compliance, whether that be the installation of grass, whether that be installing shrubs that have mulch around them to cover those areas. We would work with them within the confines of the UDO.
And he does not have to remove the rock, correct?
Well, he would have to remove
He
the
would have
rock
to
beyond what was shown.
Move the rock, what is showing, but remove to another location.
He would have to move it to another location, not on the site.
Okay, but he can use the rock that he has there, because we approved the size of the rock on the previous.
He doesn't have
So
to
in the
remove rock.
situations where stone would be allowed on here, so
Yes.
in those, we'd have to go back to the original
Correct.
site plan.
The
If there were
decoratives-
areas where he could use stone, he could use that stone that
Yeah,
is
the
there.
decorative stone that he has in place right now can be reused in the approved areas.
Yes,
Okay, he doesn't have to buy new stone.
no.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. And before I call the question, so then, does
So
that
I just wanna
third-
make
does
sure-
that third item stand as per city approval? That you're going
Yes,
to grant the
that's-
variance per city approval?
Grant the variance per city approval, does that work?
I'm so sorry, I'm not following. When you say
Here's-
grant,
here's- Here's
Go
what
ahead.
I understand, which is if we deny all 3, he's got to go back to the city and work out a plan anyway.
Okay,
Is what I'm hearing from Eric.
okay. So deny all 3.
Then he just goes back and starts from scratch. And
Can we add a condition that the existing rock can be used even though we have the approval from the first that can be used?
that would be
for-
attached, that would be attached to item 3, I believe.
yeah, so you can't add conditions to a denial.
To a denial. Okay, that's
But you
true.
guys will be, obviously, everybody's going to use logic here and not make him remove rock that could be reused on the same site.
Correct. We will work with him to,
You get
find
where
a
we're going,
solution.
Eric. We want to make sure that that's reused. And so
Yes.
doing the denial, which is what you're saying, is, yeah, you wouldn't do that. That's why we were doing the approval with the conditions that Flavia was stating. So the question becomes, what's the proper way to do this? If the city agrees to work with the petitioner to see to it that that material can be reused and makes that assertion here, then we would then just simply do a denial of all 3.
Yes.
So if the question is in a place where decorative, like in a location where decorative stone is currently allowed under code, could he use the rocks that are there now? That is already taken care of by the administrative appeal, which you did approve. So we would allow like the areas near the, like under the stairs or
Right.
near the air conditioners next to the building.
Correct.
They could take out what is there and put in this rock that we've been talking about, the new one.
Exactly.
So does the petitioner understand that the rock that is in place can be reused for where the rocks are allowed?
I mean, to be honest, I'm still confused on how mulch and rock are any different.
But bottom line, I think the thing is,
So-
you're out of compliance. The UDO is very clear. You have to give us strong findings of fact to overturn denials. You haven't given us that. So you're out of compliance. We're denying all 3.
Sure.
You've got to bring it into compliance, and they're going to work with you to do that at a minimum cost. Because I will say, again, as I said from the beginning, vast improvement. You've made a solid investment, and it's improved everything around it. And we can appreciate that. I can personally appreciate it because I live in that neighborhood. But again, our purview with the BZA is very tight. And you have to give us strong findings of fact to overturn things. And you haven't given us those. So you'll work with them to come into compliance. Is that understandable? Even though you don't agree with it?
Sure.
And further, we do understand the confusion about the rock, yes.
Yeah, don't get us wrong, this is a confusing petition, really.
Yeah, we understand that you don't see the difference, and that is, we completely understand where you're coming from on that. However, it is stated clearly in the UDO, and builders in this community should know that. And so regardless of whether it makes sense, it's in the UDO. And so we can't violate that. That's our point. And having a further discussion between you and the city to say, could you please explain to me why this particular doesn't work, or which type of thing would work, that's where you would go next. And Flavia is making sure that the city's going to work with you to be able to reuse that material so it's not money wasted. At least it could be reused elsewhere on the property for where it's allowed. So the city will work with you on that so that you're not throwing away material. That's where we're stuck at this point. Okay, if we have any further discussion, we'll have that. If not, we'll call the question. Anyone? Any further discussion? Call the question. Vote of yeses to deny, all three.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes. So that request for variance is denied. And thank you for your patience. We're trying to just understand this because it is complicated, and apologies for that, but we do appreciate you giving us the time so we can figure this out, so we can get to where you need to go on the next step. Thank you. Okay, break. We're going to take a 3-minute break for bathroom, and we'll be right back. We stand adjourned for the moment. The BZA is now back in session, and what we will do at this point is go to ZR 2026-03-0008, and may I have a staff report, please?
Yes, so this is a request from the petitioner Built LLC for a property at 1320 South Rogers Street. The petitioner is here tonight requesting conditional use approval to allow a driveway and structures within the floodplain to allow for the construction of 5 buildings on the property for the use contractor's yard within Parcel C of the Thompson Planned Unit Development. So this site is part of it's about 6.42 acres and is part of the Thompson PUD. It's in Parcel C. This particular section of the Thompson PUD received site plan approval in the late 2000s, envisioning a general office park within this section of the Thompson PUD. There were 2 buildings that were built as part of that. However, the remainder of the property has sat undeveloped. There is a good portion of the property that is encumbered with the floodplain of Clear Creek that you can see here, which explains why this particular portion of the Thompson PUD was the last to develop because it was more encumbered by the location of the floodplain. You also have the riparian buffer for Clear Creek that moves through here. So as you can see in this exhibit, the floodplain encumbers a great deal amount of the property. More than 50% of the property is covered with the floodway and the floodway fringe. So the floodway fringe is what you see kind of in blue shading on the outer edges of the creek there in the floodway. So the petitioner is looking to utilize the east section of the site for a new development for 5 buildings. That will be used for the use contractor's yard. What this means is buildings will have individual spaces within there that tenants can lease, use for the storage of their vehicles and work items, as well as conduct some of their shop operations from. So these buildings would be situated on the far east side of the site. The site has frontage on Rogers Street to the east, Hillside Drive to the south, and then Patterson, the driveway extends to the north and it connects to Patterson on the far north side of the property. So the petitioner, as they have tried to work with a site plan to utilize the majority of the site that is out of the floodplain, they do have a little bit of the site that would be developed with buildings and structures that are within the floodplain. So you can see on this map here, I've tried to draw the location of where the floodplain falls that encumbers some of that area. With this, the buildings would be elevated 2 feet, minimum 2 feet above the 100-year flood elevation as required. They do have some of the drives that are within the floodplain as well. So it is the placement of the drives and the building within the floodplain that requires them to seek conditional use approval in order to offset the placement of the fill for the buildings and the driveways. The petitioners have shown a compensatory storage pond to offset that fill. There are 2 ponds that are shown here. One is to offset that fill area, and then another would be to meet stormwater detention requirements and water quality requirements from City of Bloomington utilities. So there would be just one internal drive that would access an interior driveway area to service the buildings. The buildings would face Rogers Street to the east as well as internal, and then have internal driveways or access doors for each of those buildings. So as I mentioned, the petitioner's request that is for the BZA is simply to allow for the conditional use of the buildings and the drives within that floodplain. There are 3 sections of the UDO that deal with review criteria for this. One is the general compliance criteria, and that deals with compliance with just the general standards of the UDO, any other known applicable regulations. In this particular case, the other applicable regulations would be approvals from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, for the placement of the fill within the floodplain. There are no improvements that are shown within the floodway itself, so no approvals from the Department of Natural Resources are required with this, just approval from FEMA verifying that what has been constructed was per the approved plans and that they have installed the compensatory storage areas that they are required to do. So that will happen once construction has been completed. The second review criteria deal with additional criteria for conditional uses. So that deals with review and compliance with our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan designates this area as employment center, and one of the uses that is called out within the employment center is flex tenant spaces, which this matches as it allows for a variety of uses within these buildings. It is supplementing employment uses as these are directly related to the trades industry. So it does work to accomplish the provision of job stabilization. So the other review criteria for conditional uses involves minimizing or mitigating adverse impacts. So the compensatory storage helps minimize those impacts to the floodplain. This does not have any work that is shown in the riparian buffer. So with the impacts or the use of the floodplain, it's really just a technical review of making sure that whatever fill you're placing in is offset by additional storage area and storage capacity. So that has been accomplished with their storage pond area. There is no phasing that is proposed with this. And then the third review criteria deal with floodway and flood fringe development and has several components. The plans do show the 100-year elevation throughout the plan set. So that has been shown on the plans, which is one of the review criteria. The second deals with elevation of the the floodplain, regulatory flood elevation. So that is offset again with the storage areas that are being shown with this. There is no on-site waste disposal. This will be connected to city sewers. There are replacement or some work that will be done to the sewer lines. However, the manhole covers are located above the flood elevations, so that is compliant with that standard. So with that, we have found that it does meet all of the review criteria, and we are recommending that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the proposed findings with the 2 conditions that are listed in staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions once the petitioner is gone.
Thank you, Eric. Is the petitioner present? Come forward and sign in, and when you're signed in, state your first and last name, please.
Hi, Dylan Reynolds with Space Co., the civil engineer representing the developer.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You have up to 20 minutes. Same rules apply. What you don't use will be withheld for later.
Yeah, thank you. I think Eric did a pretty good job explaining kind of the scope of the project. It's really a 5-building development for some flex tenant spaces. Like I said, Tom Sears with the development team is here if anybody has questions on uses, but mainly here to ask for your approval for development in the floodplain. Like Eric mentioned, we have 5 buildings that are all pushed about as far east on the property as we can get to avoid as much floodplain as we can. We do have a couple buildings that clip the floodplain, but just to reiterate what our requirements are, for any fill that we place in the floodplain, to elevate the structures, we have to offset by cutting somewhere else, so there's actually no loss of floodplain storage. So those are the requirements we're held to. So all those calculations have been submitted to the city, and I think a couple of the conditions for the floodplain development permit and site plan approval, those have both been applied for and are in progress, and we've received a couple round of comments, and we're just in the process of answering staff's comments to those. But other than that, I can answer any questions that you guys have. Thanks to Eric. This is kind of the second iteration of this project, so he's been extremely helpful helping us get to this point and making sure we're compliant.
Yeah, we were listening, but I wanted to just explain. You were saying about the no new buildings built in the floodplain, right?
There will be 2 within the existing limits, but they will be elevated
Okay.
more than 2 feet above the flood elevation. Yes.
That's it, because I was just looking at the overlay, and I was just
Yeah.
trying to get my
Yep.
mind wrapped around that. So I heard what you were saying, but I did want to make sure I was looking at the right
Yep.
document. Thank
Yeah.
you. Any questions for the petitioner? We'll withhold the rest of that time for the final comments. No questions? Okay, nothing for the city either. If you would, you can grab a seat. We'll go to the public for comment. Anyone in chambers who'd like to address this? For public comment? Seeing none, go online.
If there's anybody online, please use the raise hand function and we can recognize you or send a message via chat.
He's just elevated.
I've not seen anybody online.
Thank you, Eric. So we are back to the petitioner for final comment. We didn't have any questions, so you can use this time to your discretion. And then after that, we may have final questions for you before a motion.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have anything else to add, so happy to answer questions.
Very good. If you would just stay there for us, please, in case there are any questions for the staff or the petitioner. If there are none, we'll entertain a motion. You can have a seat if you want.
I'll go ahead and move to approve CR 2026-03-0008.
Have a motion for approval?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to real quick, this is obviously in the same vicinity. This is really exciting to see this go in. And I know that whole area with the switchyard, obviously the petitioner before you is right there as well. I love the idea of bringing development, but I love the idea of bringing development that's going to bring jobs. So kudos to you guys, and good luck with it.
No more. I don't have any questions. So anything else?
Nope.
All right. I'll call the question.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are moving on to 2026-03-0009. Can I, is this yours, Jackie? Can I pause for a conversation here, please, before we move? Could I talk to you here, please? Thank you. Before we move forward, who is the petitioner that will be speaking to this petition tonight? And only you? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. Thank you, Jackie. There was just a sidebar of a conflict of interest to assure that there was no conflict of interest for those on the board. So with that, we are at ZR 2026-03-0009. May I please have a staff report?
Thank you. Jackie Scanlon, Assistant Director. The petition we are looking at tonight is at the existing and expanding Convention Center campus. The petitioner is requesting sign variance for that. Sign variance is for the properties that make up that campus. The zoning district is mixed use downtown, and there are properties both in the downtown core and the downtown edges overlay. So here is a site plan of that area. So the area involved tonight is the existing convention center, the property to the east of that is being developed with the convention center expansion, and then the parking lots that you can see to the south and west of the existing convention center that are utilized for parking for events at that location. The petitioner is requesting variances, one, to modernize one of the signs that they have, and also to provide wayfinding signs as the campus is expanding. So all of the sites together are roughly 6.07 acres. Again, it's in the mixed-use downtown zoning district in our downtown designation for the comprehensive plan, and the convention center is already there and will be expanding in the future, currently under construction. So the proposed site plan indicates locations where new signage is proposed. So they have three types of signage that they are proposing that do not fully meet the UDO. The first is freestanding ground-mounted directional signage. So you can see my cursor here a little. That's these squares here in largely the parking areas. So one here and then these parking areas down here. So that people will be able to know that they can park there and utilize that location while at the convention center. So there are 9 of those. And the way that we're looking at the variance is basically just variance from the signage code, but in the staff report, we broke down what each particular type of sign needs variance from. So this particular type of sign, which you can see here on the left, requires allowance to be placed in the right-of-way because a couple of the 9 will be are proposed to be placed in the right-of-way, and some are close to the edge of the right-of-way line, but on private property, so variance from the typical setback there. Additionally, most of our freestanding signs have a requirement to be wider, that the base not be, I'm going to say this backwards, so I'm just going to read it. Variance to allow the width of the base to be less than 40% of the height of the sign. So you can envision a typical monument sign, which might be more squat, and these are obviously a different design. And then a variance to allow no landscaping around the base of those signs. Variance from a number of signs, because each property is regulated with how many freestanding signs they can have. And variance from the requirement that only certain buildings that are set back 15 feet from the right-of-way line should be allowed to have freestanding signs in this zoning district. And for those directly located near the B line, a variance for that location. And additionally, freestanding signs in this district are a maximum height of 4 feet. But as you can see here, these are proposed to be 5. So those are the technical things that they don't meet, and this would be the design that you would be approving if you include the freestanding ground-mounted directional signage, if you choose to approve and include those. The second type of signage that the petitioner is requesting are these double-sided signs to hang on light poles. So you can see there are some, the purple squares are the light pole signs, the ones that we already looked at. The directional signs are these little red signs here. And the reason that they need right-of-way variances for those are for the ones that surround the convention center, that portion that's under construction, So these that are inside of the parking lot, those are the light pole signs. Again, so that people will know that they can use that parking while utilizing the convention center. There are 16 locations for those, and 2 of which are located in the right-of-way. This is not a typical sign type that we have. So the only additional signage that's not explicitly laid out would typically be signs that are not greater than 1.5 square feet. So a variance from that requirement to allow this size of sign, to allow them to be on the freestanding poles, and to allow the two in the right-of-way to be located there as well. And then the third type you can see here on the right is one ground-mounted monument sign with a digital signage included. So there's an existing ground-mounted sign in front of the Courtyard Marriott here, and that is where these two squares are. They are green and pink, if you can see those colors. And that sign will be replaced with this sign. So in this overlay in particular, the sign maximum is 15 square feet. So this, they would need a variance from that particular portion of the sign code. They would also like for the sign to be taller than 4 feet. They are currently proposing 7 feet 5 inches, and a variance to allow a freestanding sign with internal illumination and the reader board component, which are not strictly allowed by code. So the department's proposed finding, number 1, is that the granting of the variance from sign standards will not be injurious. The proposed signs will help visually unify the newly expanded campus so that the community members know its boundaries and are able to use it. It will not substantially adversely impact the use and value of the area adjacent to the property. The existing facility actually contains all 3 types of this signage, except for the digital signage on the monument sign. They have some form of signage on the lights and some form of some directional signage. So this will kind of clean up what they have there and have that all be standard as well, which would be a benefit to the community. And then the electronic reader board sign that they're requesting is between 2 parts of the campus. So it's not directly across the street from other users or homes or other commercial users. It's between the existing convention center and the new part that's under construction now. The department is recommending a maximum of 6 feet in height for this sign. As I mentioned before, the allowable maximum height in this district is actually 4 feet, but 6 feet is the maximum in other districts in the UDO that are more intense for freestanding signage. So we're recommending to carry that over here as well. And proposed finding for criteria 3 is that the strict application of the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance would result in practical difficulties of the use of this site. This is similar to when we discussed the variance package that came through for the new portion of the site when the new building was being designed. That, you know, the overlay envisions numerous separate individual uses next to each other, not one large site taking up 6 acres in the downtown. We only have one convention center, which is a peculiar condition in and of itself that this is that use. And so this could only be applied at this location with the reasoning we've submitted. And so we believe that granting the variance will relieve the practical difficulties associated with this request. So the department is recommending that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the proposed findings and approve the petition with the condition that the freestanding monument sign shall not exceed 6 feet in height, and that the digital portion of the proposed sign, if you do approve and they have to resubmit at 6 feet, must not exceed the same portion relative to the new height as the sign shown in the application packet. So basically, we are not recommending allowance of the digital reader board at its current size. If the height is lowered to 6 feet, we're asking it to be proportionally lowered as well. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll go to the petitioner now. You've heard the rules. You know the rules. Just sign in and state your first and last name, and I'll swear you in.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Hempstead with Schmidt Associates.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And when you're ready, you'll have up to 20 minutes. We don't mean to rush you. Take your time.
I'll use 2 and leave my time for questions. So the signage package for the Monroe County Capital Improvement Board and the new Bloomington Convention Center really has 3 main purposes for signing and wayfinding. The primary purpose of the wayfinding signage package is safety. As the convention center exists on both sides of the streets and as a relatively complicated district, we want to ensure safety of pedestrians, drivers, and of course cyclists. That's his primary goal. Secondarily, we want to get the campus to be unified. As we mentioned, 2 of these 3 signage types exist now, but in different generations and legacies of the convention center. So we feel that the signage package will unify the entirety of campus and beautify the neighborhood and the district. And then finally, ease of use. When it comes to things like parking in particular, things like the light pole signs, we feel will make the convention center easier to use for our guests and also easier for our neighbors if our guests know what parking lots are actually part of the convention center and where they are supposed to park. So that's the reason for our variances and signage packages today. We have incorporated the new branding for the convention center within, and so the materials, the finishes, all work within the entirety of the package of the building design. So I'll stop now and leave my time for questions.
Okay, thank you. Retain the rest of the 18 and a half minutes if needed before a motion is taken. If you'll just bear with us, we may have a question for you. My first one, though, is to Jackie. Now, this is not a city-owned property. It's okay, so this question is a little odd. The city, when it put up its way, if it were to change and put up new Wayfair signs, that like we did a number of years ago before the new UDO, do they have to abide by the same policies of the UDO, or do they have, are they granted a lot of leeway, the city?
For city signage, so the title, so Chapter 4 exempts public signs. So it's a defined term in the UDO, and it's exempt from most of the requirements of the sign standards. So basically, if this city can meet the definition of public sign, then they are exempt.
So again, because this is a joint venture and the county, et cetera, I just wanted to kind of make that connection, that there's some leeway here because of that relationship, maybe. So that's one thing. The other one is the digital sign that's going to be put in on College. That'll abide by the 20-second rule that we've discussed in the past, or is this a different type of sign, like a reader sign?
No, it will abide by the 20-second.
So it could have full screen images and those types of things. It's not just like a, whatever they call those, the ticker tapes.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. And any questions from the board at this point? Okay, if not, then you can have a seat. We'll go to the public for comment.
If you're on Zoom and you would like to speak, you can raise your virtual hand.
Anyone in chambers that want to speak to this? If so, come forward. Mr. Cassidy, come forward and sign in, and we'll swear you in. Is there anyone, Jackie, there? Yeah, online? Okay. State your first and last name.
Randy Cassidy.
And Mr. Cassidy, do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. You have up to 5 minutes.
It'll only take a minute. It's the right thing to do. We're building a convention center. Everybody needs to be able to see the signage, the directions to direct them where they need to be, the safety, and the benefit of our community. This is something that is important because while we may know where we are, as we bring people into our community, they need to know where they're going, how to get there, and have that impression of Bloomington with the positive aspect. And while we may regulate signs, we also need them to help us through things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. Anyone else wishing to speak from the public? Seeing none, no one's online, correct? Correct. Back to the board for discussion or a motion.
I don't think there's any discussion, so I make a motion. Make a motion to approve ZR 2026-03-009 with the following condition. The free standing monument sign shall not exceed 6 feet in height. The digital portion of the proposed sign must not exceed the same proportion relative to the new height as the sign shown in the application packet.
I have a motion in front of the board.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? I personally think that this really could fall inside the city, latitude. So I have no issues whatsoever of granting the petition. Okay. So if that's the case, I'll call the question.
Ballard?
Yes.
Burrell?
Yes.
Throckmorton?
Yes.
Thank you.
Approved. Congratulations. Thank you for your patience. We will see you next month. At this point, do we want to new business, or shall we just wait until we see the results of
David, do you have the Purdue score?
the Purdue score? Well,
I'm kidding. I'm
my,
kidding.
My only comment on the new business, Jackie, is that, I mean, I do like the 5-minute, 20-minute. I'm not real keen on changing that. I don't know. I mean, they hardly ever use 20 minutes anyway. Do you
The public, 5 minutes, I think it's a lot.
I think 2 is great.
could we say 3? Because I do think
Excuse
you
me.
can't speak.
30 to 30 with 3 minutes left in the first half.
Thank you so much.
You have to be sworn in, John. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that we don't really get a lot of public anyway, so I wouldn't want to push it down to 2. Are you okay with 3?
I think 3 is good.
Yeah, 3.
It will force him to define a little more.
Does that
so.
make sense, Jackie?
I'm so sorry I didn't watch the beginning of the meeting because I was in the Environmental Commission.
We had a discussion about
You're
there
changing
could be
the
some
rules?
changes to the rules,
Okay.
and we were saying that at the end of this meeting, we might just have a real brief discussion about what might be good time limits.
Sure, yeah. Do you, I mean, you could, I'm not sure if you could vote on that, but are you just telling me so we could bring it to you next month?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, correct.
so 3
No, we're
minutes for
not
public?
voting. Yes, it's a suggestion.
Great.
And can I make a quick comment on the decorum aspect of? Just because I know I can be outspoken myself, but the public last meeting coming at us, asking questions, pointed questions out of the blue, I don't know, I find that.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I wanted to actually ask, we need to have, what do you want to call it, an executive session or whatever, but we need to get together and talk about what's the best way to handle that, because there are strategies and we need to know what they are.
Because, like, I'll understand if you want to disagree with me all day, fine. But yelling a question to me out of the public, I'll answer it, but that's why I said, let's talk after the meeting. And of course, that person didn't want to talk. But yeah, I just found it to be, I feel like we have really, really good decorum. I think, Joe, you do an excellent job keeping it all very respectful. And again, we can agree to disagree, and I may upset people, but I felt like that was out of line, and I didn't appreciate it. And I would address any issue anybody has with me as part of this board. I'd be more than happy to do that outside of these meetings. But
Yeah, I think that we've also had it from petitioners who've gone outside what we've dictated, which is, they can't just step up and say something. But, it's not a matter of wanting to shout them down and say you can't, it needs to, what I was trying to figure out, because I was very disturbed by a couple of them that were yelling at Tim about, what's your proof, which is, it's just inappropriate. And Tim was very upfront about what his proof was, so it wasn't anecdotal. So that was an issue. But at that time, it actually kind of ended quickly because of the way Tim responded. But there are going to be situations where it's probably not, if it's a public that really wants to. Here's where I'm going with it, okay? So to cut to the chase, is I do think at one point we have to have some strategy as to whether we just say there's a right to protest peacefully, we'll let them say their piece. We can actually either stay here and wait till they're done and not say anything, and then when they're done with go about our business, we could exit the chambers until they're done protesting. We need to come up with a very clear plan so that we treat it in a very controlled, reasonable way on our part. And then if police need to be called in because there's danger, that's another issue, right? So I'm glad Tim brought it up, because I forgot to discuss that in an email.
well, I appreciate how these meetings run, and they run really, really well. But yeah, I think it's a valid point, and I've honestly never, I've been on some other board, I've never been accosted. Like again, you can really hate me and disagree with me and not take anything of what I have into account in terms of my vote. That's fine, but let's at least respect each other. So David, I don't know if you have any.
I think an executive session is a good idea. Legal has had meetings with certain departments on just this issue, handling unruly customers, clients, residents. So I think they're probably ready to have that conversation with boards. And it would be a good idea, as Joe mentioned, to have a strategy in place to deal with that. I've worked with lots of BZAs, and that was about as bad as I've seen it.
Well, we've had maybe one other.
I wanted to add that on that same meeting, I had a gentleman approach the podium and put his finger on my face and insult me.
Yeah.
He did what?
He came to here and told me, you don't understand a thing what you're talking about, and
Last meeting?
yeah.
Oh, yes, I wasn't here. We did hear about it. I do think David's right, an executive session is,
Yeah,
we
and
don't
I-
want you all to be treated that way.
No, that's
We-
okay. I
yeah.
did want to have, I'm glad we have the initial portion
Yeah.
in public, so this is for the record. The other part of that is, I do try to make a point when there's sidebars up here to actually try to talk about what the content or the general content is, so that the public is at least aware when they're watching the record, that, we're not just up here, making side deals. What we're trying to do is keep clear about what we're discussing. So I know that in our time of doing this, we've always at least tried to say that sidebar was about this particular issue as it relates to what the petitioner or the public was saying. And I think that that's something that we'll continue to do, so that at least there's a public record of that. And I think that's enough, in order to assure that we're being transparent.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, if we could set up an executive meeting with all 5 members, that would be great.
We'll
Thank
schedule
you.
that.
All right, any other business in front of this board? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.